Welcome to the I Didn't Know What the Fuck I Was Doing podcast.
We're your hosts, Teresa
and David.
This is the podcast with two ADHD entrepreneurs who jumped into uncertain territory
and made lots of unpleasant mistakes along the way.
We were able to figure out what we're actually passionate about.
And we are here to help you do the same.
Each week, we will release 2 episodes discussing how we navigate our businesses, relationships, and health,
as well as interview excellent guests who share their own personal IDK WTF stories.
Listen today so you can hear some relatable content
as we normalize uncertainty in business and in life.
Because it's important to admit that no one really knows
what the fuck they're doing.
Welcome back to the IDK WTF podcast. I am one of your hosts, Teresa Merrick, and I wanted to share a little bit about our awesome guest speaker. Her name is Avital Miller. Avital was such a pleasure to interview. She's been an entrepreneur since she was 5. She shares several of her IDK WTF moments. She also shares with us her full Bodied Success Mastery 4-step process. It is awesome. You get to have a little bit of movement, use your voice, get a little attitude. We had a lot of fun, and we really hope you enjoy both part 1 and part 2. Avital Miller is a best-selling author of the books Healing Happens, Stories of Healing Against All Odds, and Practice Wisdom from the Downward Dog. She inspires people to experience boundless energy, absolute happiness, and true success in order to live the best life possible. For over 15 years, Avital has been serving thousands of people worldwide as an award-winning international keynote speaker, healing breakthrough facilitator, neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, and global dancer. Avital's leadership background includes being a program manager at Microsoft, lead coach for Success Resources America, sales and marketing director for Crystal Clarity Publishers, yoga and fitness teacher trainer, and a fitness director. Her articles have been published in New Fashion Magazine, Toastmasters International Magazine, Fitness Professional Online, 30 Seconds, and Sacred Dance Guild Journal. In 2018, she won the Exceptional Woman of Excellence Award from Women Economic Forum, and her book, Healing Happens, won awards from Top Shelf, Dan Poynter Global eBook, Living Now Book Awards, and NABE Pinnacle Book Achievement. Avital also throws the Valentine's Soiree, which has become an annual event that is specifically for charity. I hear that is the party to be at. So if you're in the Denver metro area, definitely check out tickets for next year. I plan to check out tickets. Currently, Avital is working on the WOW Jubilee that is happening this September in the Denver metro area. There are links to all of this information in the bio. We had a lot of fun, and we really hope you enjoy both part 1 and part 2.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the IDK WTF I Was Doing podcast. I'm David B.
And I'm Teresa Merrick.
And we are here with one of my absolute favorite people in the world who does wonderful and amazing things, Avital Miller. We've got your professional bio in the show notes for any of our listeners who are also watching. But the cool thing, I met you a handful of years ago, and I'm really, really pumped to call you a friend and have you here. And you're actually our first guest for season 2. I don't know if I told you.
Woo! Season 2! You made it to the second season.
We did.
Yes, and
Everyone's
we're so
excited for it to begin. Did you leave any cliffhangers?
Just would we come back? And we are here. So you're an international speaker, best-selling author, serial entrepreneur as well, right?
Yeah. I started when I was 5.
What was your first entrepreneurial endeavor?
The first thing I did was sell the drawings that I made to my neighbors.
Yes, I love it. You were a budding artist.
I know, I was not good.
Hey, you were 5. It was spectacular, guaranteed. I love that your neighbors purchased them from you.
I'm a budding entrepreneur, not a budding artist.
Fair.
Hey, if people buy it, it's still valuable, whether it looks good or not.
Absolutely. I seriously do. I just have to say, I love that your neighbors bought your art as a kid. Like, that's like my favorite. I'm like, People are so good, and it's so nice that they nurtured that spirit in you. I love that.
And I don't know if you want to hear the rest of the story, because my mom told me to go return the money. I think it was worth that. And she didn't want, because she's a single mom raising kids, she didn't want people to think like we were begging for money. The kids in India or something. Which was not good to help train my entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah, it's interesting because being like the mom and being an entrepreneur, I totally get that, where I'd be like, you did not ask them for $20 or something. But obviously, if your neighbors did that, then they, that's why do you stop and buy lemonade at a kid's lemonade stand? Because you want to like encourage them and make them feel good. So
yeah, you're paying for their initiation and courage to do something like that. You're not paying for the lemonade.
Okay, budding entrepreneur, since you were 5, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, what you do, how you got there? We want to hear all about you.
Yay, thank you. I would say actually another thing I did when I was 5 was tell my mother I was going to write a book, and I was going to write my autobiography, which is really cute because I didn't know yet I would actually have an interesting life or a story to share. And I was straight out of college. I graduated in engineering and dance, and I got a job as a program manager at Microsoft. And then I realized that wasn't for me, because how many of us know, at age 20, what's really for us for the rest of our life. Of course, these days we just change our careers every few years. So there's so much more flexibility today. But back then it was, you had to choose for life.
So much pressure in high school, right?
Yeah.
Decide what you're going to be forever.
I know, when you barely know who you are at all. Yeah. Yeah. But here's where that sort of ability to feel youthful or be youthful in our bodies comes in. And I become a yoga and fitness instructor, teacher, trainer. I mean, granted, I grew up as a gymnast and dancer, majored in dance. I'd already been teaching, passionate about. And then I dive into management quickly with it, training instructors and teaching 25 to 30 classes all over town. And I'm known as the Energizer Bunny.
Sounds like you have to be.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, we'll talk about energy too, if we want.
Yes. I would love to talk about energy too when we get there.
And actually, we've got a gift that we're going to share to help people figure out how to become an Energizer Bunny. So everyone needs to stick into the end. But so I'm thinking I'm an Energizer Bunny.
So you've had an interesting past, and you've had a lot of different experiences. What does that lead you into now? And what are you doing these days?
Well, here's the downfall. I started to have health issues. I started to have fatigue. My hair was falling out. My muscles were turning to fat. I was wondering if I'm becoming weaker than my students, and losing my sense of identity and trying to hide it. You can imagine, if either of you lost your ability to speak, how would I do this podcast that's influencing people? And you could say this is one of those, I don't know what to do moments, those IDK WTF moments, but it was I really do see myself creating an impact for people in the future. So I have to figure this out. So I just start studying any resources that I can come across at the time. I go to all different types of health and healing practitioners, and then I start healing. Doctors start tapering me off medicine. I'm like, this is a miracle, because they didn't say that was possible. And then I start meeting people who were healing from terminal diagnoses. So I started interviewing all of these different health and healing experts. And that's actually where my book, Healing Happens, Stories of Healing Against All Odds, came into play. So there's 17 interviews with all different kinds of experts in there. And granted, this is another of the IDK WTF stories. So in grade school, I would score 99% in the math equivalency exams and 55% in English grammar. So I've been told in a number of environments that I didn't know how to write. I needed special tutoring. There I am working for a book publishing company for 5 years as the sales and marketing director, just getting inspired by sharing messages and writing books. So I was like, I'm going to do it. And I know everything about publishing, right? From working at the company, especially it's a small company. So I actually, at some point, wore most of the hats there. I hadn't written the book yet. And this is what's amazing. The book wins 4 awards and hits bestseller on Amazon, despite my supposed lack of ability in writing. Note, if you feel like doing something and you're not good at it, do it.
Was there
really that bad?
what was when you were writing the book? Mm-hmm. what do you think made it successful? The reason I'm asking is because like the 4-Hour Work Week, Tim Ferriss, he says the reason his book was successful is because he was literally writing it for his best friend. He was talking to one person when he was writing it. And that familiar tone and the specific advice he was giving to that one person resonated with a lot of people, which is one of the reasons it blew up so well. What do you think was one of the reasons for your book's success?
The first thing, like the main thing is the passion. I mean, it's the belief in getting the message out, what impact it can have, but getting excited in the process. I talked about it in every conversation that I had. You know, I do that with some of my bigger projects today too. And that's what makes them ginormous.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that I really like about you, and that like anyone who would actually meet you in person is really attracted to is just your energy and your enthusiasm and your genuine passion for whatever it is that you're working on. So I think that's a really cool trait about you.
Thank you. I mean, and that's what gets a lot of the book sales. That's what gets the speaking engagements, right? Remember, I was speaking around the world on the book. I mean, the actual awards, you do have to send your book in and apply. But because I worked in publishing, so I knew more of the fine-tuned technical skill of how to make a good book. And like, no, I didn't have to be a good writer. I just needed a really good editor. So I auditioned a number of editors. I made an investment, you know, in the book to make sure that it was a really good book. And so that's first learning the technical skills, but also taking very specific actions. So there's very specific actions that I took in order to be an Amazon bestseller. And it's actually not that hard when you know what to do. And then you just do it.
Perfect.
Totally. It's taking those actions. Well, so in the beginning, I want to know what was like the hardest piece to push through and do the writing when you had been told you're amazing at math, but writing is not your strong suit.
Yeah, I had the desire to share a message. So that compelled me to be curious. And I was still being told that you can't write. And so I went to a class. I was like, okay, I guess if I can't write, I'll just go learn how.
Perfect. Well, I love that so much. You're like, get curious. I think curiosity is underrated for sure.
And that's interesting because I think that's a common theme between both of those is you were told you're not a good writer and you were looking to make your book successful. So you learned the steps, you learned the skills. And so you took the action and then you put it into practice. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, but I should tell you about this class.
Okay.
I took one class. And what she said in the class was, if you feel compelled to write a book, that means that at least one person in the world wants that message. That was actually the only thing I needed to hear.
That's so great.
To go and do it. So no, I didn't take a bunch of writing courses and belabor myself. I just hired an editor.
Perfect.
Work smarter, not harder.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I have a friend who's an editor and an author's coach. And it's so fun listening to her. And I've gone to a couple of her like graduation ceremonies where you get to hear passages of what people have written during her course. And it's so powerful. Like, and so many people have amazing stories to tell. So I love that you just jumped in and said, nope, I'm passionate. This is important.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share it.
Yeah.
And so your book got published, it got you a bunch of speaking gigs, it got you touring all around the world. I think we're going to take like a short break and then let's hear what that book led to for the rest of like your career and kind of how you took that and kind of developed into who you are today.
Absolutely.
Perfect. We'll be right back, guys. This is a podcast for anyone looking to improve their personal, professional, or family life.
We craft these episodes so you can learn from or relate to our experiences and opinions.
And we'd love to hear more about you. So if you're interested in connecting with us further,
as well as other like-minded individuals,
we recommend checking out our creatively named Facebook group, Colorado Entrepreneurs.
You don't have to be from Colorado or be an entrepreneur to join, but it doesn't hurt.
Just go to facebook.com/groups/Colorado Biz, that's BIZ, and send us a join request.
Or check the link in the description and show notes below.
Thanks for listening. And now back to the show.
And we're back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, everyone. All right. So we're hearing a little bit about Avital's story. And yeah, tell us a little bit more. So where are you today, or how did that book change what kind of you expected out of life?
Yeah, I think one thing leads to another. and kind of actually rewinding, I was living in a yoga community. And then I was still adapting to moving out because I lived in the woods for 7 years at this community. And then I'm writing this book at this really, really quiet house on the coast of Oregon. Like you saw it, David, like there's nothing going on there. And then I go on book tour around the world and two things are happening. One is I have a life. Like I'm doing all these fun things all over the place. And and number two, I'm staying with people in their homes and seeing all this community that they've cultivated and feeling a little jealous of that. So I'm like, well, what if I really station myself somewhere where there are more people and more things going on, develop community, and I can still travel, around that. So it kind of started bringing the traveling to a close, and I had to ask the question, where do I want to live? And an obvious thing, it was a big city. Obvious thing was go to Portland. I had lived in Portland before the coast of Oregon, but nothing happened in Portland. I even got more speaking engagements in Denver than in Portland, even though I lived in Oregon. So Denver, I'm getting invited out here for all these speaking engagements. And then I know all these things that I enjoy in life, and everything's handed to me on a silver platter. Like, okay, you like going to restaurants, you like doing all kinds of dancing, like you like doing different fun things. You want the mountains, like you want the city, you want handsome guys to date. Like it's all here for you.
We all love Colorado. We can't help it.
Oh, I know. So,
and the view, the daily view. Can't get a better one.
Yep.
So
And
actually, real quick out of curiosity, because Oregon is so close to California, and I feel like everyone in Colorado feels like, oh, there's so much more opportunity in California. What was it about Colorado that jumped out instead of like doing engagements in California?
Well, I did plenty of speaking engagements in California, and I had already previously lived in both Southern and Northern California. So I was in a little bit of a been there, done that. So when I was leaving the yoga community, which was in the mountains in California, I was like, okay, well, do I want to go back to one of those cities or go somewhere new that I haven't experienced? Portland's up and coming. And I'd already been in Seattle too, right, for Microsoft. So that was it. I love new experiences. So I'm like, okay, I'm moving to Denver, and I pretty much moved out here as quickly as I could. That's another fun story of how I got here. And then I'm like, okay, I'm developing community. I'm having membership programs. So I have a program which has evolved into being called Sit and Succeed. It started as just a meditation group, but I've gotten more certifications in neuro-linguistic programming since then. So that's included. And then I love to include some networking and masterminding, and involved with it. And then like, okay, the best gift I can give to my clients is to develop community, for them. And I'm going to create community from within community. So that means that whatever interests, whatever work people have, I'm going to create events around that. And that's where I had two personal trainers in the group. And obviously I have a fitness background. So we did what I called a turkey burn. We did a workout during Thanksgiving weekend and then had a potluck, and people really liked that. So we kept doing it. That evolved into the event Valentine's Soiree, which we might talk about in a bit. But there's a second reason why I wanted to develop community and host fun events. I've pulled out of my Healing Happens book what I call the top 4 full bodied success mastery strategies. And I've related them to other areas of life. But the first one is to focus on your reason to live. And so doctors are noticing that their patients are healing from terminal diagnoses, terminal cancer. If they're just paying attention to, okay, I want to watch my kids grow up. Like I want to see my grandkid walk down the aisle.
Like their full meaning in life. Like,
yeah, I mean,
what is their drive to live?
Yeah. And sometimes it's like, I want to finish watching a soap opera series. And one lady, it was, you need to stay alive because who else is going to take care of your 9 cats?
Yeah. So with like some sort of purposeful. And even if it seems maybe silly to someone else, but it's like, no, I have to see what happens in the end of the show.
Yes, exactly. And so it's just, to me, that defines as fun, really. And do you notice if you post on Facebook, this amazing quote from the Dalai Lama or Mother Teresa, a few people will like it. If you post a photo of yourself having fun, like it's like 100-fold the number of people who like and appreciate that. People get inspired by joy. And that's why I just keep putting more energy into these events around that. So my work kind of evolved where I'm still leading these motivational programs, But then we also now have a fun community, and that grew into hosting big charity events. And the way that I do these events is create community around that, put a lot of creativity and upliftment in the process of it, a lot of awareness and education. So I'm actually combining my entire work background when I host these big events. And that's created a whole new concept that I'm developing too.
Awesome. Okay. So I have a question for you. If someone wants to develop more joy in their life, what is like the number one thing you would tell them to do?
Okay. I'm going to say this because that's like the thing like screaming in my head, because it's actually very easy to say, well, just go do something fun, like turn on music in your living room, dance for 5 minutes. The thing that helps you get the motivation to do that is directing your energy upwards.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay,
so
what do you mean
that's
by directing your energy upward?
Yeah. So that's a first step. And for some people, it makes sense if they do just play the music and get up and dance. That's going to direct the energy upwards. But I will talk about this in yoga terms also.
Oh, great. I love yoga.
So in yoga and meditation, really, we're focusing on drawing the energy into the spine and then up the center in the path that I studied, right? So every meditation is a little different. And so then you're focusing at the point between the eyebrows. Now, just take this for a moment, understand that also in terms of a more relatable aspect. What's your body position when you're sad or tired?
You're kind of slouched over. You're kind of like, your whole body kind of droops in usually.
Yeah. What's your body position when you're happy and excited?
Yeah. You're just up. You're in that like aligned, maybe your arms are out. Maybe you're, for anyone who's maybe not watching this, but just listening, like, yeah, you lift your arms up. There's a different energy for sure when you're excited, or there's just this like bubbliness and your body wants to move in a positive way.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you look down, you go to sleep. Note to those of you who fall asleep in Shavasana and yoga class, look up.
Great tip. How to not fall asleep in yoga. I love that.
Yeah. You're looking forward when you're doing your work, when you're driving, when you're taking actions, when you're in your conscious mind. You're looking up when you're trying to brainstorm.
You're actively thinking. That's like a natural, you look up when you're thinking about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. One tip that I learned a long time ago was if someone's stuck in like a negative rant, or you're stuck in like a negative conversation where the person is just like complaining, if you point to something high up and you like get them to, like, if I'm in a car, I'll be like, hey, does this light work? Or just something to try and trick their eyes to go upwards. It breaks that negative cycle that they're in. And that's really interesting.
So
you said the same thing. Yeah, I've used it for years and it works probably like 80% of the time. It's shockingly effective.
I have like teens and preteens in my house. I need this a lot.
Yeah. Like,
and for myself too, when I'm dealing with my teen and preteens.
I'll give you another tip for that, Teresa. Now I'm like curious, David, if you've ever used that on me. But
you're never upset. You're never negative. So
yeah, right. I never have any trouble. Nothing.
But now you'll know if David, or if you see David pointing up to anyone he's in a conversation with, you'll be like, oh, they needed to say something. And I'm going to remember that, David, because he'll probably use that on me. We spend too much time together.
How many ceiling tiles are there? Is that,
I don't know.
broken? Yeah.
He's too subtle.
What was your other tip, Avital?
Okay, but just no, the other, I'll tell you Teresa's tip in a second, but the other point about that is that scientists notice that when people are using their intuition, this is the part of the brain that is stimulated. So yeah, you can just sit in meditation and close your eyes and then gaze just slightly upwards under closed eyelids, like while you're doing your breathing exercises, and that'll start to train you to be directing energy up. I love starting with the energizing exercises that Paramahansa Yogananda created before I sit down, because that'll automatically raise your energy. When you know them, you close your eyes and you look upwards while you do them too. So you're kind of getting energized by doing these physical motions, you're breathing, which is also very energizing. And then you're actually more consciously directing the energy up. But what you do is you take uplifting music. So my spiritual teacher got himself in a very, very uplifted state when he was recording himself chanting Om. And this one teacher at the yoga community told this story. She has 3 kids, and there was a gap in age between the older 2 and the youngest. And so she's wondering, like, how do I help get the younger one to sleep when the older ones don't need to go to sleep yet? And, to help the younger one calm down. And she'd start playing our spiritual teacher, Swami Kriyananda, just chanting Om in the background. But this is what she noticed with teens. And maybe you can speak to this, but a lot of times with teenagers, it's in order to get them on board, you have to go the circuitous route to kind of get them there. It's just, there's a lot more conversation involved to create understanding and alignment. Yes. And so she noticed this huge circuitous route. Well, after a couple of weeks of playing this music every evening, it was way more direct. It was way easier to get in alignment with her teens just by playing this uplifting music in the background. So whether it's, my spiritual teacher chanting Om or classical music, just something else that actually has also been tested to raise energy. Right. There's a lot of different types of music that inspire people and excite people, but what raises your inner energy?
Yeah, that's so great. I love that. And in our house, we listen to all different kinds of music. We, like, my husband and I expose our kids to all sorts of our favorites. We listen to everything. So I'm absolutely going to have to check that out. If you have any specific recommendations you would make on that, we can absolutely link something in the bio as well for anybody else to check out.
Yeah, the music that was created by Swami Kriyananda, some of it's by his original English name, Donald Walters. So when people look up either of those names, my two favorite albums are Secrets of Love and Awaken to Super Consciousness. So those are typically the things that I would play in the background or that I play when I lead yoga classes. I'll stray from time to time, but when I really, really want to be helping people get energy high and have something subtle in the background that feels acceptable to the most people, because those are just instrumental.
Okay. No, I love that. I will absolutely go check that out. So thank you. And actually, friends who are listening, this is the end of our first part of this podcast, and we have only heard one of the 4 steps of Full Bodied Success Mastery. So please join us for the next episode, or go to the next one. It might already be out when you're listening to this. And I can't wait to hear what Avital has to tell us next, because I've already gotten so much.
We might actually get to hear maybe her greatest I didn't know what I was doing story, and maybe some of her failures and some things that you really want to hear. So,
yes. So there's all sorts of good stuff coming in part 2. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you on the next episode.
David, now we have a cliffhanger.
Yes, that's so great.
Thank you for listening. This has been part 1 of our 2-part series on this topic.
The second episode will be out this coming Thursday, if it's not out already.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, please consider liking, subscribing, and or reviewing us on wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Also, if there's someone you know who clearly doesn't know what the fuck they're doing and would benefit from this topic, please hit that share button and send them this episode.
Let's normalize the feeling of uncertainty,
asking for help, and admitting that we don't know
what the fuck we're doing either.